Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be recreating this beautiful prudential gown. So if this look at what you're interested in, definitely watch till the end. Begin, I have my paper on fold. My pattern paper is on fold. Okay, so from the tip of the paper I came down by 1 inch. All right, because this is a built up high neck, so to achieve that built up high neck we are going to extend the neck upwards instead of coming down. Okay, so I drafted out my basic body line. This is the shoulder line, the bust line, under bust, and the half length. All right, so the first thing we are going to go ahead to do is the first thing we are going to go ahead to do is to take the width of the neck, and the width we are going to be using in this case is 3 inches. Okay, so from the center front as well, we're going to come down. We're going to take our shoulder measurement. Okay, we're going to divide our shoulder measurement by 2, and whatever we have, that is the point we marked here. Okay, so from that point we are going to come down by 1 inch for our shoulder slope. All right, so the next thing we are going to do is to extend our neckline upwards like this. All right, so this is our neckline. Okay, so we are going to connect this point straight to our neckline using our curve. So we are going to use our curve to connect from our shoulder slope to our neckline like this. Okay, so this is what we have for the neck. So the next thing we are going to do is to go down by our shoulder depth, which we get by dividing our bust measurement by 6 and adding 1.5. Okay, so this is what we have. The next thing I'm going to do is to connect this point to this point. Okay, so I'm also going to draw a line across, and that will be our chest line. Okay, so let me label this chest line. Okay, so having gotten this, the next thing we are going to get is our armhole curve. Okay, so I'm going to find the midpoint between these 2 points and this point. This is the midpoint, so on that midpoint we are going to go in by 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so on our bust line we are going to divide our bust measurement by 4, and whatever we have we are going to place it here. All right, so we are going to connect this point, and this point with my curve. Okay, so this is our armhole curve. All right, so the next thing we are going to do is to come down to the dart. Okay, so on the half length of this top, first we are going to divide our nipple to nipple measurement by 2. Okay, so what I divided my nipple to nipple measurement, what I have is 4 inches. Okay, so on this point I'm going to take 1/2 inch away from the 4 inches. I'm going to mark 3.5 on the half length, 3.5 on the under bust, and then on the bust point I'm going to mark the 4 inches. Okay, on the chest line I'm going to mark 4.5 inches. Okay, so this is how I'm going to connect. I'm going to connect this with a straight line. I'm going to connect this to this, the bust to the under bust, and I'm going to connect the chest line to the bust point like this. Okay, so this is what we have. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is, remember that this is the half of our armhole curve. Okay, I'm going to use my curve to connect that half back to the chest line. Okay, so this is what we have. So for our dart on the other side, this is the side going on the outer part. I'm going to take 2 inches for my dart. Okay, so if you are very busty, you can go with 2.5. Okay, depending on the size of the bust. If you are not busty, you can go with 1.5. If you are busty, you can go with 2. If you are very busty, like a very big bust, can go with 3, can go with 3.5, can go with 2.5, depending on how busty your client is. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect these 2 points like this, and then I'm going to connect to the bust line. Okay, so this is what I have for one part. Right, so on the armhole part, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Okay, this is the center of the armhole, right? I'm going to come down by 1 inch for our armhole dart. Then on that line, I'm going to come out by 1.5. I'm going to extend it by 1.5. Okay, so when I've achieved this, I'm going to connect back to the bust line. Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to just make this part clearer. Okay, so this is what we have. This part is going out. Okay, this part is going out as well. Okay, so when we have achieved this, the next thing we are going to do is to input our measurements. Okay, so in case you don't understand the reason why we extended this line outside, this one we are going to cut it straight from here. Okay, but this one we are going to cut it from the extended part, which I am going to connect back to the armhole. Okay, so we are going to cut it from here. This is because when we have already taken out 1 inch from our dart, you are going to see that there are going to be a shortage. Okay, once we take out this part now, there's going to be a shortage. So if you are cutting it from here, after joining, you are going to find out that you are going to have shortage here, which means here can no longer be equal to this part. Okay, but if you extend it out by 1.5 inches or 2 or 1 inch, you are going to find out that they are going to be equal after joining it. Okay, we are going to see that when we are working on it. Okay, so we are going to input our measurements. All right, so this is what we have here. This is our bust measurement divided by 4. Okay, so on our under bust, we are going to divide our under bust measurement by 4, and whatever we have there, we are going to replace this dart. So when I measure this dart, what I have is 2 inches. Yours might be more than 2 inches. That is what we mark here. This point as well, we are going to place our quarter of our measurement. Then we are going to take whatever we have here. What I also have here is 2 inches. I'm also going to place it there. Okay, so when I have achieved this, whatever we have here, this is 1 inch. Remember, we divided our bust measurement by 4. Okay, so whatever we have here, which is 1 inch, we are going to replace it here as well. Okay, then we are going to connect. Okay, so this is what we have after we have connected. Okay, so remember, we have not added any sewing allowance today. So when we are cutting on our actual fabric, we are going to add the sewing allowance. So when we have gotten to this part, the next thing we are going to do is to curve the half length a little, because there is a little curve on the half length. So on the side, which is this part, we are going to come up by 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so we are going to use our curve to connect like so. We're just going to okay, so this is what we have. So we are going to go ahead now and cut all these parts. Okay, we are going to cut all these parts now. This is what we have after we cut it out. Okay, so remember when we extended this part by 1.5 inches, if you finish joining it, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, you see, if you finish joining it, it's just going to be equal. But just imagine you did not extend it, you did not add this 1.5 inches. If you finish joining it, you are going to find out that this part is going to end here. Okay, thereby shortening your armhole curve. Okay, so having said that, we are going to place this aside and work on the neck. Okay, so for now, this is what the center front looks like. This is the center front, this is the neck, right? So you know that this neck is a stylish neck that come down like this. Okay, so we are going to work on the neck right now. So first thing you are going to do on this neck is to determine how deep you want it to go. Okay, just to determine how deep you want it to go. Me, because it's coming to this side, I'm going to be measuring from here. Okay, so I want it to be about 7 inches deep. Okay, which means I'm going to connect from here to here and then from here to here. Okay, so if you want it to be deeper, you can go down by 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember that this is your chest line, so you can come down more if you want to. Okay, so but I don't want it to be too deep, so I'm coming down by 7 inches. Okay, so having gotten that, I'm just going to connect from the tip of the neck here to that 7 inches. All right, you can use your straight ruler to connect if you want it to be straight. Okay, you can just connect like this. Like this. Okay, if you want it to be like this, but me, I want it to have just a slight curve. It's not going to be too curvy. I want it to have a slight curve, so I'm going to use my curve to connect. Okay, so I'm going to connect like this. And then use my ruler to connect this part. All right, so this is what we have. We are going to go ahead now and cut out. Back, I've also gone ahead to draw out all the basic bodice line, the shoulder line, the bust line, the under bust, and the half length. Okay, so for the back, I'm just using a single pattern paper. I do not double it. Okay, that's because there's nothing special about the neck of the back. Okay, so we also left 1 inch, just like we did for the front, on the upper shoulder. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do now is to take the width of the neck. Okay, so we are going to use the exact same thing we used for the front, which is 3 inches. Okay, so that is what we are going to use, and just like we did for the front, we are going to extend these 3 inches to the tip of the paper. Okay, so from the center, front, back as well, we are also going to divide our shoulder measurement by 2, and whatever we have, we are going to place it here, then come down by 1 inch on that point. Okay, which is our shoulder slope. Okay, so just like we did for the front, we are also going to connect this with our curve. Okay, so this is what we have for the shoulder. So just like we did for the front, we are also going to take our armhole depth by dividing our bust measurement by 4 and adding 1.5 to it, by 6 and adding 1.5 to it. So here I'm just taking the exact same thing I took here, so I can get a straight line. Okay. I went ahead to connect this point to this point, and I also draw across a straight line, which is my chest line, just like we did for the front. Okay, so we are also going to get our armhole depth by dividing the armhole slope, the armhole curve, by dividing the armhole depth by half. Okay, so here we are going to go in by 1/2 inch, and then we are going to connect this. Right, so this back is going to have a normal dart. Right, so I'm just going to divide my nipple to nipple measurement by 2. Okay, and I'm going to place that on the chest line, on the bust line, on the under bust line, and also on the half length of the project. Okay, so here I'm just going to connect all the curve. Okay, so because we said this is going to have a normal dart, I'm going to go in and out of the dart line by 1/2 inch. Okay, this is to take our dart. We already know how to take a normal dart. Then we are going to connect that dart all the way up to the chest line. Okay, so this is what we have. The next thing we are going to go ahead to do is to impute our body measurements. Okay, so here, this is what we have. On the waistline, we are going to divide our body measurement by 4, and then we are going to replace this dart here. Okay, so this is what we have. Having gotten this, I'm just going to go ahead and connect. Remember, we have not added any stitching allowance to this. When we are drafting on when we are cutting on our actual fabric, we are going to add the stitching allowance. Okay, so to avoid the zip bulge, to remove the zip bulge, we are going to come in on the waistline by 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so when we have gotten this, we are going to connect from this waistline up to the upper chest line in a diagonal form like this. This is to eliminate bulge from our zip. Okay, so this is what we have. Remember, we curved down here a little on the front because here is not straight. We are going to do the exact same thing for the back. Okay, remember what we used is 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so when we have gotten this, we're just going to connect like so. Right, so this is what we have. This is what we have. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and cut. Through with cutting out, what I'm going to do on this neck, because we're not just going to let the back neck be straight like this. Okay, we are going to have a little curve on the back neck. Okay, so I'm just going to use 0.5 inches to curve the back neck. Okay, so I measured 0.5 inches from the tip of the neck, and then we are going to connect with a curve. Okay, then we are going to cut out. Alright, so this is how the back neck is going to be. Alright, so this is what we have for the back, and this is what we have for the front. Okay, so we are going to go ahead now and cut this out on our actual fabric. The African print I'm going to be using. This is a very beautiful African print. Okay, so I'm going to be using this black lining, and then I'm going to be padding it with this hairstay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and gum my hairstay. I'm going to interface both the lining and the main fabric with my interfacing, and when we get back, we are going to start cutting on our actual fabric. So here, when I was done interfacing the actual fabric, I had it folded into two, and then this is what I have. I placed the front, okay, and I added my sewing stitches. Okay, on the neck part, remember we have a stylish neck part, we are still going to open it up to cut, but I still added 0.5 inches on the neck part, on the shoulder, on the sides here. This is the armhole. I did not add any sewing allowance. Okay, so for this part as well, on the down part, I added 0.5 inches all around here. I didn't add anything on the armhole, and on this shaping side, I added 1.5 for the shaping and also the sewing allowance. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and cut out. So here I just notched the under bust. I notched the under bust here, and I also notched here. Tie on the neck. Okay, for this tie at the neck part, you have to first of all determine which side you want this depth to be. Okay, if you want it to be at the right or the left side of your garment. Okay, so me, I want it to be at the left. That is why I placed it like this. Okay, so I'm going to add 0.5 inches around the neck. Okay, so this is what I have. This is what I'm going to cut out. Okay, so let me quickly cut it out. So this is what I have for the front. I went ahead to do the exact same thing. I added 1 inch for the zip allowance, then 1.5 inches for the shaping allowance, 0.5 on the shoulder, 0.5 on the neck, 0.5 on the down part, and nothing at all on the armhole. Okay, padding, because I don't want it to be heavily padded, I want it to be slightly, very lightly padded. I'm going to be using a hairstay to pad. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to triple the hairstay. I'm going to put 3 layers of hairstay. Okay, I'm going to put 3 layers like this, and I'm going to make sure that the hairstay starts from at least a tiny bit below the underbust. That is why you should notch your underbust. If you notch your underbust, it's not going to be difficult for you to determine where your underbust is. So here I just put 3 layers of hairstay. For the side as well, I'm also going to put 3 layers of hairstay. Like after I was done padding, this is the center and these are the 2 sides. So I went ahead to do the exact same thing for the lining as well. I padded the lining lightly as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and start joining. So to join, we are going to make sure that this underbust and the underbust of the other parts, that means the 2 notch, are corresponding. Then we are going to join the 2 of them together using 0.5 inches. Okay, so you are going to join using 0.5 inches. You are going to do the exact same thing for this the other side as well, and for the lining you are going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. So here, after we are done joining it, okay, this is what it looks like. We are done joining it, we notched it and we pressed it open like this. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Can you see? This is a cup that was not even padded with a wadding or a foam pad. What we just used is a common hairstay. Okay, this is standing way pretty. Okay, so this part now is when we are going to join the back. Okay, we are going to join the shoulder. Remember that this has a cape, so for us to cut that cape, we are going to first of all join the shoulder. Okay, this is the back and this is the front, right? So I only interface the front, I did not interface the back. All right, so here I'm just going to join the shoulder with 0.5 inches on the both sides. All right, so I'm going to head over to my sewing machine and join the shoulders. Cut the cape, I have another fabric here that I cut out. Now I did not measure this fabric, I don't know how many inches it is. I just cut out a piece of fabric. Okay, so here I'm just folding it out. So this, I'm going to cut both the lining and the cape together because this cape has a lining. All right, so here I just folded out one piece like this, as you can see, and now I'm going to cut out this part first. This part that curve to the other side, I'm going to cut it out first. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this on top of this fabric that I have folded here. Right, I hope you can see it, and I left enough space here because the front is longer. Okay, I hope you understand this. So I just lay it flat like this. I want it to be at the tip, but not, because you know this has a little curve. So this is it, this is the way I placed it, like this. Okay, just want to make sure that this neck is laying flat, this part as well. All right, so I'm just going to trace it out like this. Can you see? I want to make sure that this place is laid out flat, because whatever you have here is going to determine if the cape is going to relax on the neck. Okay, so this is what we have. I just traced out this, what we have on the cape here. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. Okay, and then I'm going to draw out my cape. Now this depends on what you want, on how wide you want your cape to be. Okay, so here I just draw out my cape. Can you see? This is what I'm going to use for that part. Okay, so I'm going to cut out. I'm supposed to put allowance here for the folding, because you know we are going to sew it, but I forgot to put it, so that means I'm going to put it here. Okay, so that once I use 0.5 inches for the back, I'm going to use 0.5 inches for the front. And mind you, this back is not supposed to enter the zipper, it's supposed to be flying. Okay, so this is what we have. This is what we have for that part. Okay, I'm going to interface it. You can use anything you want for the interfacing. All right, this is what we have. Okay, so I'm going to place this aside, then still bringing in that piece of fabric that we have. I'm still going to fold it in like this. Okay, so this time around I'm going to place this part, this the other part. So I'm just trying to make sure that the neck is relaxing like this. Let me bring it forward a bit. Okay, so this is what I have. Okay, so just like I did for the other part, I'm going to trace out. Okay, right, so this is what I have. This is the center. So I'm also going to okay, can you see? So I want to make sure that these two places are equal. Okay, so it's equal. I also want to make sure they are equal in width. Okay, so I'm going to add my allowance. This is where it was, so I added 0.5 inches allowance. Don't mind the way I'm drawing this, I'm still going to point it. Okay, so this is what we have, right? Let me place it again to be sure. I just placed it to make sure that it's giving what it's supposed to give, and this is what we have. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to interface this, but this is optional. You can as well just turn it like this, but I'm going to interface mine to give it a more thicker look, and then I'm going to place it. All right, so this is what it's going to look like after we are done. It looks like after I was done. Okay, so I turned here with here. Okay, this place is the part that we are going to be putting inside the neck part, so we are not going to be turning it. Okay, so as I know I said before that this is supposed to be outside, not inside the zip, but on the second thought I tried to put it inside the zip. Okay, so that it's just going to lay flat all through. Okay, so I decided to put it inside the zip on the second thought. So if you also want to put yours inside the zip, you can go ahead, but if you want yours not to be inside the zip, you can also go ahead and not put it inside the zip. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this to the right side and give it a nice press. You might like to check is to make sure that these two places is equal, so that when you fix the zip, one is not going to be longer than one. So after I just checked and it wasn't equal, so I trimmed out a little bit of excess. Okay, so now we are going to attach the cape. Okay, so this one is for this part, right? So I'm just going to place it like this and pin it. So when you are pinning it, make sure you are aligning it properly. So this is what we have. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my sewing machine now and turn it. Okay, so by the time before I start turning it, I'm also going to join the lining shoulder to shoulder, then I'm going to go ahead and turn it round. So after I was done joining it, what I went ahead to do is to notch it. We already know that whenever we make something that's curve, we are supposed to notch it, right? So I went ahead to notch all around the neck. Okay, so I'm going to turn it inside out. So after turning it, I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice press.
So this is the beautiful piece we came out up with after we are
No one is
done.
okay?
Remember to hit the subscribe button and give this
Yeah,
video a thumbs up
last
if
year
it helped you in any way. And I'm going to see you guys again in the next one. Bye.